Well, good evening, everyone. As chairman, I declare the meeting open at 6:02, and welcome everyone present in attendance, and advise that the meeting will be digitally recorded in accordance with the council policy Gov 0.017, digital recording of the council minutes to record meetings of council to assist the preparation of the minutes and allow live streaming of the council meeting. Acknowledgement of Country. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which we meet today, the Tomajina people, and to pay our respect to those that have passed before us, their history and their culture. Thank you. Registration of attendance. We have 6 councillors present. Apologies from Councillor Hyland, who has COVID. Also, I'd like to mention that several staff are down with COVID, and the GM, Mr Crawford, is one of those. An apology from him, and just a late apology tonight from Councillor Fairbrother. Leave of absence previously approved, nil. Confirmation of the minutes of our previous meeting. That the minutes of our ordinary meeting of the Waratah Wynyard Council held at the council chambers on the 21 Saunders Street on Monday the 20th of June. Any corrections to these minutes are to be identified and agreed to prior to taking a vote to adopt the minutes. Could
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Move, Deputy Mayor Dunyam.
No, sorry. I had my hand up. I wanted to speak. There is a mistake in the meeting, in the minutes of the last meeting.
Okay, we'll get a move in a second and then we'll address that correction, Councillor Bradley. Good on you. So, Councillor Courtney? Yeah, Deputy Mayor Dunyam moved and Councillor Courtney seconded. And any corrections to the minutes are to be identified and agreed at this point prior to taking a vote to adopt the minutes. Councillor Bradley, could you highlight the error, please?
Yes, in the minutes 5.54, the name is, there's 2 different spelling for the name of...
Councillor Bradley, could you, we
Sorry.
can't quite hear you. 5.4 was it?
5.54.
Yep.
That the name Perella or Pirelli, whatever his name, there's 2 different spellings of the name. Could one of those be highlighted as the correct one, please?
Okay, we will take that on and fix it, and you'll be happy with that.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Any further corrections at this stage that can be identified before I put the motion? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. I overlooked leave of absence previously approved. There was nil. Declarations of interest. The councillors or staff with an item on tonight's agenda that they have a pecuniary interest in, they'd like to register. Nil. Thank you. Announcements and reports. Announcements by the Mayor. I don't have any announcements to make. I've got the list of my communications there from the last month. Any questions in relation to those? I'd just like to move in a second that they be noted.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Deputy Mayor moved. Councillor Brammy seconded. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. I'd just like to remind us that we need to speak closely into the microphone with our masks on, and so it's quite clear to those viewing from afar. Item 4.4, notification of council workshops. There is a list of all that there, and would someone like to move that we note those, please?
So move that.
Councillor Edwards. Seconded Councillor Courtney. Any questions, any discussion? No. I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Public questions and statements. There was a list of public questions and statements from our previous meeting. Public questions received in writing, nil. Public questions without notice, which we are tonight. And I have a list of public questions and statements up here with me, and those are the authors of those, and I'll address those. And before I do, The Mayor needs to read a little story which goes like this. The Council encourages community participation in its meetings through the opportunity for public questions and statements. Consistent with Council core values, councillors and staff strive to ensure all people are treated with respect and integrity, and we know our residents and ratepayers will apply similar standards in their dealings with the Council. As Mayor, it is my responsibility to maintain the orderly conduct of Council meetings and to determine whether a question or statement is out of order due to the use of offensive, objectionable or defamatory expressions. Members of the public may make a statement or ask 2 questions, and I know that we'll go courtesy in their comments. Thank you. To begin with, Mr. Acting GM, Mr. Summers. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Mr. Locke, you have an attachment with questions you'd like to present to us, please. And as I remind you, we'll come up nice and close to the mic if you would, and so that the online people can listen.
Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Councillors and Gallery, thank you. My name's Tony Locke. I head an organisation called A Shared Vision, helping vulnerable women and children in our community. Our council and community are justified in sharing the concerns about sex offenders who refuse to take on any responsibility for their criminal actions, such as in your case, Councillor Fairbrother. It is clear for all of us to witness that you exhibit the sense of having special rights and privileges over others. This predatory behaviour has endured for decades within our community and beyond, and subsequently caused so much harm against so many good people in that community. So my first question is to you, Councillor Fairbrother. Are you prepared to give our council and our community the reassurance that you will seek help, the help that you so desperately are in need of, and stop playing the victim? My second question to you, Councillor Fairbrother, is also, can you please kindly explain how you feel justified in staying on as a councillor, given the nature of your crimes and given the fact that you're no longer welcomed to represent us in our community anymore? Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Locke, we'll take those questions on notice and seek a response from those that they are directed to. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, is it advisable that we can take our masks off to talk? Is that a problem and an issue? It'd just be that much more clearer.
I guess it should be okay, Councillor Bremish.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, you can't hear me too well?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I just wonder whether the people out there in the
yeah.
big wide world might be able to hear you.
Yep.
I notice, most people take their masks off to talk when they're doing interviews and that.
Yeah, Yep. Mr. Hutchison, you have a couple of questions and statements, but one's for the planning section, which I'll bring you forward later, but at this stage, the one for the Open Council.
Good evening, Mayor and councillors and staff. My questions are for Councillor Fairbrother.
Mr. Hutchison, could you come a little closer, please?
In the absence of the answers to any of the previous questions I asked at the last council meeting, which Darren Fairbrother refused to answer, I'm just going to pose a list of questions to him tonight. I'm doing this in the interest of public accountability. I'm going to send them to his council email, and I expect a reply. I'm also still awaiting a copy of the letter that he sent to the Premier where he suggested that there was an apparent miscarriage of justice in the court case. I won't hold my breath. But at the June council meeting, Darren Fairbrother stated in response to my question, as it alludes in the agenda, Mayor, I'm happy to take any question that involves the roles and functions of an elected member. I don't intend to respond to those questions that relate to matters which have occurred in the past. My response to that is, in reflection, I know you actually like to waffle on about the past during council meetings, regardless of its relevance to your roles and functions. In my observations, you have talked about your personal history at Boat Harbour Beach, your personal connections with the Myala region, reflections on the history of Waratah, the history of Foster's Road when you proposed name changes, local Aboriginal history, to list a few examples. It is actually inconsistent with your character not to talk about or answer questions relating to matters that have occurred in the past. I'm not interested in a public relations campaign. I'm interested in accountability and what you have to say for yourself. To talk about the roles and functions of an elected member and whether certain councillors have upheld this, we do actually need to talk about the past. So can you please have the least bit of respect and answer these reasonable questions relating to the roles and functions of an elected member? Thank you. So question 1, what are your roles and functions as a councillor? 1B, in your role as a councillor, do you believe that during the current term you have acted with the community's interests in mind since 2018? And can you provide 3 examples of this? 1C, in your role as councillor, if you act with the community's interest in mind, will you consider the petition tonight from the community requesting that you resign and act according to the best interest of the community? 1D, disrepute, defined as lack of decline of good reputation, a state of being held in low esteem, or the state of not being respected or trusted. Bad repute, low regard, disfavour, also means a lack of good reputation or respectability, which can be reasonably regarded as reducing the public's confidence in that member being able to fulfil their role, or adversely affecting the reputation of members generally in being able to fulfil their role, or the absence or loss of reputation, discredit or disgrace. So in part 3.1 of the Councillor Code of Conduct states that the actions of a councillor must not bring the council or the office of councillor into disrepute. Darren Fairbrother, in the last 4 years, yes or no, have your actions brought this council or the office of councillor into disrepute? 1E, part 8.7 of the Councillor Code of Conduct states that the personal code of conduct of a councillor must not reflect or have the potential to reflect adversely on the reputation of the council. Darren Fairbrother, in the last 4 years, yes or no, has your personal conduct potentially or actually had an adverse effect on the reputation of the Waratah Wynyard Council? 1F, why did you attend the meeting of June 20th of the council? 1G, why did you come out only moments for the council meeting before the council meeting was scheduled to begin? 1H, why did you take a photo of a member of the public and the gallery prior to the meeting beginning on June 20th, 2022? 1I, was this in line with the Councillor Code of Conduct, Part 7.1, which says that a councillor must treat all persons with courtesy, fairness, dignity, respect, not cause any reasonable person offence or embarrassment, and not bully, harass any person? 1J, why did you refuse to answer questions directed to you during public questions without notice? 1K, why did you take questions on notice yet refuse to provide a timely response to council staff for addition to this month's agenda? 1L, have you been instructed by your legal counsel to refuse to answer questions in public meetings? 1M, why did you leave the room?
Mr. Hutchison, I'll have to interrupt you. A couple of questions are allowed.
This is my statement, and I'm going to send these questions to Darren.
This is your statement?
Yep.
Okay. Gotcha.
1M, why did you leave the room return following one particular public question and statement without notice? 1N, you suggested that your reasoning for leaving Section 8 motions by councillors citing a declaration of interest. What exactly was your interest in Motion 8.1 and Motion 8.2? 1O, why did you not return to the council meeting after Section 8 of last month's council meeting? 1P, why did you suggest that you would not answer questions that pertain to the past in response to my question and only those related to the roles and functions of a councillor, but then answer questions pertaining to the past as a private landholder during councillor questions without notice? In response to Councillor Hyland's question about you justifying your position as a member of the planning authority when action has been taken against you as a landholder, you made a couple of responses, including stating that the matter is before the Tasmanian Administrative and Civil Tribunal. I think it is inappropriate for me to comment on that. To respond to the councillor, the matter that was complained about was about myself cutting up timber, which I used for firewood. A direct reference to the past. So how do you account for the difference in what you said to me and the action you took at a later part of the meeting? Will you apologise and answer the questions I have asked you? They weren't tricky questions, and they do pertain to your role as a councillor, because I have some sincere questions about your honesty, your trustworthiness, and your fitness for the role of an elected member of this municipality. That'll do. Petitioners from page 2 to 35 of council meeting attachments tonight, there were 348 signatures in a very short time period. The community sentiment is against you, Darren Fairbrother, and for good reason. You're in court again, and now another allegation has been made. If council could provide a summary and send that to him, as well as I'll send those questions to him directly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hutchison. Mr. Ewington, you were next with a statement. Mr. Ewington, would you like to come over to the mic, please?
Can you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
Go for it, yes.
Oh,
Loud and
good.
clear. Loud and clear.
Oh, give me a piece of paper out, sir. My topic tonight is reasons to develop access and inclusion working group. In 2005, I had a major injury to myself, which in turn makes me paralysed from the rib cage down. I had a major work accident which I involved going to Melbourne. I really appreciate the community who took time out and come and visit me in Melbourne and encouraged me to get well again. In a matter, I gave the doctors 4 months to recover me and send me home. So I come home in 4 months, and within 5 months I had the business up and operating again. For 1 month after myself, I modified my equipment and go to the building again. I appreciate the Yollabyne Football Club for providing funding for my members, my family members to be able to come and visit me on site. My goal was to develop the business again, and in 15 years I currently have a business working statewide with staff up to 16 staff members. My next project was to be able to be part of the community and be able to access to the buildings in the community and have parking available for disabled members to partake in the Wynyard municipality. The first project, I approached the Mayor at the time in 2005 requesting the disabled parking be provided in the street for disabled members. I was informed that if you put disabled members parking in the main street of Wynyard would turn business away from the community, and didn't agree to it. In 2011, John Smith become councillor of the Wynyard municipality. I approached him and he was all for it. So in 4 months we had 2 disabled parking spots located at Noah's, which I really appreciated. The next project was to have access to the buildings complexes along Main Street of Wynyard, because most of them had steps. In 2011, the Kentish Council got fined $10,000 for not having access to the buildings, to allow people with wheelchairs to access to them. So I approached the council with this evidence behind me, and within 6 months the council did make ramps to the access to the buildings, which is much appreciated. The next project I was taken on was in reference to wheelchair ramp at the Woolies Wool Park, Woolworths toilet block. I approached the management at that time, and after a period of negotiating difficulty, I was able to include a ramp in there to allow people to come from the disabled parking area to go straight to the complex instead of going round the Goldie Street, round the middle pub and round that circuit, which was great distance time. During all these times I found it great difficult to get the support of the council, which is disappointing. That I have got a project which is in reference to ramp access to the basketball building in Somerset. I started that project in 2017. It's now going. It's now 2022, and it's in the Human Rights Commission, because I couldn't get them to come and do a site visit and explain what my difficulty is, because at the moment I've got to get people from the group, from my bowls club, which I participate in, to help me get into the building, which is disappointing. In 2018, the post office, there was a step which people come out of the post office and went straight across and tripped on the edge of the step because the guardrail, the railing was not long enough to allow early people safe access around this step. There were several people who fell over. I went to the council and took quite a few months to get them put some ladder stripping along the front of the edge of the block ramp at the post office. There was an issue in Jackson Street in 2019. It took two elderly people to fall over, one to break their wrist, one to break their arm, before the council would recognise there's a step there, there's a lip there. Because at one time they were approached by the council, to the council to go and investigate it. And because it wasn't quite 12 mil high, they said it's not suffice to do anything about it, but it took two elderly people to fall and injure themselves. Also, I took on a situation for a young member of the community who's blind, and I requested the council to put some tactile pavers in to allow a blind member to become part of the community. It wasn't a great cost, but it's just a cost to allow him to be blind people to be able to come and be part of the main street of the complex and so he'd be able to go to the doctors, the gym, and the swimming complex on his own permits. I fought that case for several months. For time, I even got to the stage where I had to go to court over him, which I couldn't afford. But the council again overruled it and wouldn't allow it. These issues I have been finding for all my career in a situation. I'm in a wheelchair. As I've been a ratepayer or a working man all my life, because I come in a wheelchair, I feel like a second-rate member of the community. That's what I'm saying. We need to have change in this community because I've been involved in the Ulverston Central Council who have got a committee going now where they've found new processes for people like myself to go along there and explain my difficulties and have processes in place to make the changes, which they are. Burnie Council is doing the same thing, Devonport Council is doing a lot of major improvements, but unfortunately Wynyard Council has not recognised disabled people, early people in this Wynyard community, and I would like to see them come forward and be abrupt because I am part of the community, because I was told once 30 years ago I would have been in a home, and the footpaths were all acceptable at that time, but I'm now here now and I've done my bit. I've built a business up, I've paid me rates and I've paid me taxes, and I feel I should have the right to be able to partake in my interests of playing bowls and other social events and be able to enter the buildings with safety. I just get the same cold shoulder treatment from the council all these years of being in this wheelchair, 16 years, and I would like to see big changes in this community for the elderly, blind and members of the community who are in a wheelchair, and because we are all part of one community and we've all got one goal, to make everyone have the freedom to be able to partake in community events and be a part of it. Thank you.
Mr. Ewington, on page 22 of June's meeting, 4.3.1.1, develop a disability action plan incorporating mobility ramps and other community and wellbeing plan actions. And I've been advised by our staff that this council has spent $250,000 in the last 8 years wheelchair ramps and on footpaths. 250 grand in the last 8 years.
Can't comment on what I say, but
Yeah, I'm not here to argue with you. I'm here to just to provide you with that information. Thank you.
oh, well, I'll bring it up next meeting then.
Thank you. That concludes our public questions and statements.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, from a councillor's point of view, I guess a lot of the comments are disappointing to me to hear, knowing what we have done for the disabled. I guess I'm probably not allowed to comment, but I can't help myself.
We're not here to debate it. We're here to listen to the statements from the public, and we can't enter into debate. It is a matter for a reply if we see and where we see fit. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. We move on to 6.1, deputations and presentations. There's a petition, request for councillor's resignation. There is a petition here attached, 6.1.1. And the recommendation is that the council receive and note the petition regarding a request for the resignation of Councillor Fairbrother.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Dunya moved.
I'll second that, Mayor.
Second, Councillor Bramish. Any discussion?
No discussion, Mr Mayor, but I'd like to just make a brief comment. I'd like to acknowledge those people that have developed the petition and collected those names. I think that shows leadership in our community, particularly in times when things have been so difficult for us and for the community. So I really do think that we need to acknowledge those people and the efforts that they have undertaken.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any further speakers?
Yes,
Councillor
Mr.
Bradley.
Mayor. I would like to see the words the Waratah Wynyard community. I would like to ask a question, sorry. I think that this petition does not reflect the views of the whole of the Waratah Wynyard community. I would like those words, Waratah Wynyard community, struck out of the petition and replaced by the number of people who have signed the petition, or the words some of Waratah Wynyard community. I think the way it is written is misleading. I know there are some people that do not have the same views as stated in this petition. I say some because I don't know how many, so I cannot say the Waratah Wynyard community.
I understand your question, Councillor Bradley, but the petition has been presented to us from the community, and that is how we receive it.
All right.
We have no right to alter it. Thank you. Any further speakers or any further questions? Councillor Bramish.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I've got no questions. I guess this goes to show 360 something, I think that was the number, in probably a short amount of time. I guess that shows what that community is concerned about. And I just hope that, I guess the petition is not going to do a lot, but it shows us and Councillor Fairbrother what the community is expecting from us. And I guess, you know, people are trying to do the right thing by the community, and the ratepayers are trying to do the right thing by us, and we're trying to do the right thing by the ratepayers. But our flaming hands are tied, and the quicker they can change things, the better. So I support the petition 100%.
Councillor Bramish, thank you. Any further speakers? Any further questions? I'll put the motion. I guess there'll be a division, I'm led to believe. Those in favour, please indicate. Councillor Bramish and Dunyam and Edwards and Courtney and Walsh, and those against, Councillor Bradley. I declare the motion carried.
Can I ask a question on that topic? Just a question, Mayor, or is that too late?
Oh no, I guess if you have a question in regarding to that, we might as well deal with it now.
I guess for Councillor Bradley's information and my information, I guess the community wrote the petition how they wanted it, and we can't change it from community to anyone, can we?
That's a response that I passed on to Councillor Bradley, and that stands, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I declared that motion carried, didn't I? Yep, thank you. We move on now to the planning. Yeah, and we haven't. Yep. 7.1. Public questions without notice relating to planning matters. Mr. Hutchison. We're in the planning authority. Yeah, at 6:30, I declare we're entering into the planning authority section of our meeting. Over to you, Mr. Hutchison.
My comment is on the draft local provision schedules report or whatever there. I had a brief look at what the actual content said in the start. I was actually more interested in actually the responses to that. If there's any spare copies of that, of those attachments, that'd be greatly appreciated, but no worries if not. from page 408 to 409, there was a response, or a summary and a response by the council to my submission, which I made to the local provision schedules call out for the Tasmanian Planning Scheme on page 52 to 68 of this month's meeting attachments. I just want to highlight a couple of things. Point 4, the summary was there lacks provision of a new or enhanced village settlement to the south and or west of Wynyard. Council's response was a new or expanded village settlement is not supported by Council's settlement strategy. Inclusion of zoning to achieve a new or expanded village would then not comply with the regional land use strategy and therefore not comply with section 34.2 of LUPA. And also section 5, summary point 5, the proposed rezoning of Langley Park and intent to rationalise does not represent considerate and acceptable planning for the town of Somerset. And Council's response to that was Council's strategic plans all support the consolidation of sports facilities in Somerset, allowing the prime site of Langley Oval to be considered for other uses. The zoning of the land to general residential is supported and recommended by the Central Development Area Strategies and Settlement Strategy, each of which has undertaken extensive community consultation with the community regarding the future of Langley Park ongoing. And as a result of Council's response, there was no modification to the draft local provision schedules. Council's settlement strategy response in May 2021 to me is that creating new or expanded village settlements was not in the scope of the settlement strategy. Now Council is using the settlement strategy against me again, saying that the settlement strategy does not support my idea. I just feel a little bit frustrated by this process. Consultation regarding Langley Park is hardly ongoing. From memory, the General Manager stated that there hasn't really been a lot of consultation with the users of Langley Park. That was over a year ago. Could have changed since then. My observations probably mean they haven't probably been consulted with. Then Councillor High and the GM have a joke at council meeting at my expense, suggesting what a laugh it is that I suggest it or raise concern about it. The settlement strategy did have extensive consultation, but then council ignored most of the feedback received by the community anyway. None of the ideas I suggested were even considered, let alone included. The whole process was a joke, as is this local provision schedule submission process. It was all one great big joke, except if you're a developer that wants a land use change, not a pleb like me from the country that just wants an idea to be heard. And out they did come, all championing rezoning for more subdivision and urban sprawl, which apparently the council is against. But you can't stop progress. In February 2021, my response to the Liverpool Waratah Wynyard settlement strategy, which opposed rezoning of the River Road land from rural to rural living. I'll just give you a couple of excerpts from that. One has to ask why. Why here? Was it really the best choice, or have landowners requested the council to rezone? Is it really a profit-making exercise for landowners and council at the expense of rural lots? And I questioned, was council actually contacted by landowners prior to the settlement strategy being drafted? Which I received a negative response, and from memory, because I couldn't actually find the response despite trawling the archives, that any connection was purely coincidental. But in July 2022, this meeting attachments, it comes out that former General Manager for the Waratah Wynyard Council, Paul West, and his associate Andrew Wardlaw, who was a General Manager with the Burnie City Council, own River Road Consulting at 66 River Road, a 5-acre parcel of land that was included in the original proposed rezoning, which is yet to take place. Now they've made a representation during the Tasmanian Planning Scheme local provision schedules for Waratah Wynyard that council follow through with this rezoning. That's page 335 to 340. In the draft local provision schedules, it wasn't listed for rezoning. And council's position now is that there is a conflict between their submission and actually another submission from Alexandria Bed and Breakfast, Andrew and Rachel Arnold, and that there is no modification to the draft local provision schedule. So my first question is, will the council be changing the local provision schedules to amend the zoning for River Road to rural living zone?
Mr. Thornton, now Town Planner, can you provide an answer to that question, please?
I can, through you, Mr. Mayor. No, it's recommended to keep the rural zoning in the River Road area, but again it relies upon recommendations from the settlement strategy that said further strategic work is required in that area to work out what would be the best form of development in that area. So an outline development plan is required to be undertaken to work out what the best zoning would be for that area. So it's still intended for there to be future development in that area, but we're not ready to move there yet. So there's going to be further strategic work probably in the next financial year in order to guide that, and obviously there'll be more community consultation when we get to that step.
Thank you, Mr.
Thanks.
Thornton.
It just seems a little bit murky in my opinion, and I had concerns then and actually have more evidence in my favour in this instance that at some point down the track someone's mate's going to benefit. So my second question is, does council have any other former employees or mates living in the River Road vicinity who would benefit from such proposed rezoning of their property?
Mr. Thornton, do you feel that requires an answer to that question?
I guess we'd have to take that on notice, Mr. Mayor. I'm
Okay.
not aware of all the landowners in that area.
No, okay. We'll take that one on notice, thanks. That concludes our planning section in relation to questions and statements, and we'll move on to 7.3, the draft local provision schedule, section 35F report, and there is a recommendation there that we...
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Duniam moved,
Second that.
seconded Councillor Edwards. Any discussion on the presentation there before us?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this motion is stated quite clearly. The draft local provision schedule, which was endorsed by this council in 2019, has undergone a thorough and extensive review process between the Tasmanian Planning Commission and the Waratah Wynyard Council. And since then, 24 representations have been submitted to council. The next stage, particularly 35F of the Act, requires Waratah Wynyard Council Planning Authority to prepare a report, including a statement of this authority's opinion as to the merit of each representation made, referred to at the bottom of page 19. Following this report, the Tasmanian Planning Commission will hold public hearings scheduled sometime in August to examine the merits of each representation and the Council's Planning Authority response. This has been a long drawn-out process between 2019 and now 2022. However, it is where we are at, and I ask councillors to support this motion.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Duniam. Any further speakers? No further speakers? Councillor Bramish.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I'm going to support the motion. At the end of the day, it's been a long process. Obviously, some people don't agree with it, but this is the way it is. And it's going to be sent off to the Planning Commission now, and people that's put submissions in will have a right to reply. So I would think maybe in 12 months' time, supposed to be a bit less, but I would say 12 months' time there might be something happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bramish. Any further speakers? If not, I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Motion's carried. That was 7.3. We're now on 7.4, an outbuilding shed demolition and existing shed at 310 Murchison Highway. There is a recommendation there, councillors.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Duniam moved.
I'll second that.
Councillor Edwards seconded. Any discussion? Any questions? None? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried.
I won't say.
I missed you there, councillor. Yes, there we go. That concludes our planning. That concludes our planning at 6:42. We move on to matters raised by councillors, and they run through those there. Now we take on 8.3, councillors' questions without notice. Councillor Bramish.
Thanks, Mayor. I won't take up too much time. There's a situation down the street today in our new toilets between French Sticks and Noah's with writing on the wall inside. Council got onto it very quick. I did pick up on social media, which I don't look at that often, that someone reported it with a QR code. Now, I don't know how that works or if it works. And when I seen that, I thought, oh, I'll ring the council up and just check. I don't believe that message got through on the QR code. I'm just wondering how it works and if it is working. I don't know anything about it. I don't know whether... Don't expect any answers tonight. Just don't know whether we could get it checked out to make sure that everyone's doing it right or wrong or whatever. Thank you.
Yeah, I understand that that's a system, Councillor Bramish, and I guess we'll look into it. I understood that the contractor, that it was a direct connection to the contractor. Acting GM, Mr. Summers, do you wish to comment on that matter, please?
Yeah, thanks through Mr. Mayor. Staff did become aware of that, so they're looking into it as early as late today. So, yeah.
Thanks for that. Thank you.
Does that go straight to our cleaning contractor, Acting General Manager?
Through Mr. Mayor, I'll give you a detailed response later. It gets to the cleaning contractor, but exactly how, I'm not sure. It's not at my fingertips. So.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Summers. Any further, Councillor Bradley?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. This is a statement with a couple of questions attached to the bottom of it. Am I allowed to go ahead?
Yeah, if it's got to highlight your questions, I guess so, if it's brief.
All right. It's to do with the response Councillor Edwards got from her last meeting in June from a council officer in regards to the salmon farm and whether council had any input into the process.
Okay.
The council did not discuss. There was a thing conducted by the state government in April, and council did not discuss the matter at the time or produce a submission. Formal consultation to be conducted when all facts are prepared in August. I did my own research on the 10-year salmon plan. The government have already made their minds up about continuing their support for the salmon industry. There was a moratorium or delay imposed in making decisions on the salmon farms for a period of 1 year. This expires in September 2022. The government will enact or make it law in January 2023. It mentions that the 10-year salmon plan commences in January 2023. The public were invited to have their say from July the 15th to August the 24th, 2022. My question is, as there is only 1 month to go after the submission close, the council officer has said, as response stated, at this time, council has not formed any opinion or position on the matter, nor is it fully informed and educated on the subject. I might remind council that we are elected by the people, the North-West community, the Waratah Wynyard community and communities along the coast are very passionate about our coastline. These people have been working hard to save our coastline. It would be nice to think that council are well educated on the matter and be able to help the community in their endeavour to save our coast and not to be walked over by our government. The council need to be well educated, not starting to educate themselves a month before the salmon plan is made law in January 2023.
And your questions were, Councillor Bradley?
are council still going to not do anything about this, or are they going to start to educate themselves in the matters concerning the damage and the environmental damage to our coastline?
That's your question.
Yes.
We take that on notice, Mr. Acting GM, and we will formally reply to your question. Councillor Bradley. Any further councillors' questions without notice? Councillor Courtney. Councillor Courtney.
All right. I've just about had a gutful. I've had enough of this stuff with Councillor Fairbrother. My question tonight is because I've heard everything that's gone on and I've just had enough. I want to make two questions without notice. One, could we write to the Burnie Council Councillor Dorsey, and could we request that Councillor Dorsey retract what he said about us publicly, calling us a pack of dogs? Because we put up with that crap for over 12 months to do with Councillor Fairbrother's behaviour, and we were silent because we didn't want to affect the outcome of the court case. I think we've done everything right by Councillor Fairbrother. And to be called a pack of dogs in the media was, it's almost defamatory. He's almost breached code of conduct himself by bringing this council into further disrepute. And at this time, I would also like to invite my fellow councillor, Councillor Bradley, to apologise for calling us a pack of dogs, because I don't feel it's fair when we were professional, we were respectful, and we were courteous. We raised a motion, and we spoke on the motion, and we passed the motion. For those two councillors to then go on social media and to the media and then call us a pack of dogs the next day is just kicking us while we were all down. I'd like an apology from both, so I'd like to know whether we could write to Councillor Dorsey and invite him to retract those comments publicly.
Just in relation to that, I'd like to have a response in relation to Councillor Dorsey's. I personally took that very hard that day and immediately contacted him and invited him to sit down and talk with me and requested an apology, which hasn't happened. So failing that, this would be the next step, I guess. So that's your question, Mr. GM, Acting GM. We in the position to be able to write to Burnie with Councillor Courtney's request?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe we can.
Okay. And in relation to Councillor Bradley, Councillor Bradley is present, and does she want to take that on notice or wish to answer now?
I will take it on notice. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Any further councillors' questions without notice? Councillor Bramish.
Yeah, got another question on it. Not that toilet block. Councillor Courtney is spot on. What we're doing here is just total crap. It's disgusting. I'm not going to ever go at you, Councillor Bradley. I'm not going to ever go at you at all, even though I got a lot of text messages from you. But I will ever go at Councillor Fairbrother. He's not here to hear it. It's about time he woke up to himself and grew up and had some respect for us, the community, and his bloody family. I don't know what we've got to do. We had a discussion with the Minister on Friday. He can sack the whole council but can't sack one. Can't get a card in before a vulnerable card in before the next election. He seemed like a nice bloke, but that's total crap. It is total crap. They got the voting, compulsory voting in overnight, stroke of a pen.
Yeah, Councillor Bramish, I realise what your message is, but we're in the question section. Could you come
I'm asking the question. It's a question.
Okay, go for it.
It's a question.
Yes.
That we get in touch with the Premier and demand a meeting with him. and we'll find out what strings is being pulled on what politicians.
Okay. Mr. Acting General Manager, I guess that's another letter we can draft and handle.
Yep, through Mr Mayor we can.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Because the Premier did stick his nose in at the very first go and said that he should be gone. The Premier did do that. So I think he should answer that fully. Back up what he said.
Okay. Any further councillors' questions without notice? Okay, that section's closed. We'll move on. Notices of motion that's nil received. We're now to the 10.1 on the agenda, the draft tourism plan for 2022 to 27. The recommendation there that the council note the draft tourism plan and authorise its release for public consultation.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Dunyam.
I'll second that.
Seconded Councillor Edwards. Any discussion? Any
Yes,
speakers?
yes, Mr Mayor. This report is for noting and release to the public for consultation. While we can celebrate amazing tourism achievements, notably the high honour to the wonders of Wynyard recently, tourism is integral to the economic growth and sustainability of our unique municipal area. This plan outlines priorities and recommendations under three key themes of support, grow and deliver. This plan proposes outcomes that are achievable within a designated time frame. It also proposes achievable local tourism outcomes within the context of an uncertain global tourism market. And I do ask councillors to support this motion.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Dunyam. Any further speakers? No further speakers. I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried unanimously. Item 10.2 is the Waratah Community Plan.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Dunyam moved.
I'll second that.
Seconded Councillor Edwards. Any discussion? Any speakers?
A brief note, please, Mr Mayor.
Yeah.
The development of this plan included a full-on Waratah community survey, interviews and conversations with residents. It is this feedback that underpins the development of this new Waratah community plan and the development of 5 key themes: social connections, events for the town and revitalised spaces, infrastructure, civic pride and access to services. And I do ask that the councillors support this motion.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Dunyam. Any further speakers? No. I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. 10.3, the Energy Saver Grant.
So moved.
Councillor Courtney moved.
I'll second that.
You go.
It was a close one.
Councillor Bramage.
Councillor Brammy seconded. Any discussion? That the council endorse the allocation of Energy Saver Grants program funding to the 1 and 2 there listed?
Yes, please, Mr Mayor. This council has again shown leadership in the area of net zero emissions by 2030 by providing Energy Saver Grant funding to not-for-profit community organisations in the Waratah Wynyard municipality. The recommendation asks for endorsement for 2 organisations, Live Well Tasmania and the Yolla Football Club, and their energy saving initiatives, and I ask the councillors to support this motion.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Dunyam. Any further speakers? Councillor Courtney.
I'm not as eloquent as Deputy Mayor Dunningham, but I am going to support this motion because I think this is a really great thing. This is us showing leadership and then our community groups showing the same sort of leadership. And I'm glad that they've come back, and I know that we didn't sort of give it out all the money the first time, so I'm glad that we've now got these community groups getting this kind of recognition and support from council to do the right thing under our ISEP plan and to do the right thing in the energy saver. And special kudos to Live Well, who are doing a fantastic job. So that's a really good outcome for them.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Councillor Bramish.
Yeah, just wanted to comment. If I guess the Yolla Football Club will, I guess hot water would be very, very, very valuable up there of a Saturday afternoon. And living well, good luck to them. And also I'd like to apologise for my little outburst, but the people don't realise what it's doing to this council.
Okay, I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. We're now up to item 10.4. The annual plan report, the 1st of July 2021 to 30th of June 2022.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Dunyam.
I'll second that.
Councillor Edwards seconded. Any discussion? Any comment?
I've just got one. I'm obviously, this is just to note the report of our 10-year plan,
That's right.
and I know this isn't going to be popular, but I'd really like us to consider the Somerset basketball application for support. Maybe we could look at revisiting that subject and putting it in that 10-year plan. So I'm just wondering whether we can have another look at that, sort of moving forward, whether we bring it back to another workshop, whether we discuss it. But I just think not having it at all in the 10-year plan, I'd like to look at that again if we could.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Mr Acting General Manager, will we note that, or do you wish to have a comment?
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor, we will definitely note that for workshopping.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
I second that on Councillor Courtney. Like, I know they've got a very busy, growing basketball group, and yeah, you just see them trying to squash in, but it'd be great to be able to try and find something that we can do to help them out.
Thank you, councillors.
Can't third anything, can you?
No,
I support that too.
Yeah, in actual fact, I've got some correspondence that came through late last week from the Somerset basketball recreation officer, and I needed to bring that to a workshop too. So we'll share that. We'll share that with our discussions. Thank you. Any further speakers in relation to our annual plan report from July last year till June this year? Okay, I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Item 10.5, the Quarterly Information Report, Community and Engagement. The Council will note the Quarterly Information Report for the Community and Engagement Department as of the 30th of June 2022.
So moved as per the recommendation, Mr Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Daniel.
I'll second that.
Councillor Edwards, any comment? No comment, no questions. I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. We're up now to item 10.6, which is the election caretaker period policy. There's a policy because we're coming close to an election that we'll be in caretaker mode as presented.
Yep, so moved, Mr Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Daniel moved.
And I'll second that.
Seconded Councillor Edwards. Any questions? Any speakers?
No questions, but the Minister for Local Government recommended that all local governments in Tasmania consider voluntarily adopting their own election caretaker period policies prior to the upcoming election period. This ensures that major policies decisions are not made by council in the lead up to an election that would prove binding for an incoming council. Council resources are not used for the advantage of a candidate in the local government general election, and the requirement to act impartially in relation to all candidates standing for election. And I ask all councillors to support this motion.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Daniel. Any further speakers? Councillor Bramish.
Thank you. I guess it's I've got a problem with it. The only thing that disappoints me is that the minister's passed the buck on to us, that why the government haven't got one plan for the 29 councils, but that's the way they seem to operate, so I'm quite happy with it.
Councillor Courtney, you wish to speak?
I'm going to speak on it. I'm going to obviously support the motion, but I'd just like to highlight at this stage in the proceedings that it's probably a little bit cheeky of Nick Street, given the trouble that he's in for giving out money before the election, for him to say to us that we shouldn't make promises before elections. So I'm just going to note that.
Any further speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Item 10.7, the dog management policy. Recommendation there.
So moved.
Mr Mayor.
Councillor Courtney moved and Deputy Mayor Daniel seconded. Any speakers? Any questions? Councillor Courtney.
I'm just glad that we actually did go out and get such thorough feedback from our community on this one.
Yep.
Because I didn't realise how contentious this would be. So for the workshops that we held with the people that were upset about the dog management policy, and to have them in the same room as Parks and Wildlife and all the other stakeholders, I'm glad that we've come to a position that not everybody's happy with, but everybody's okay to move forward. I think that shows that we've been doing the right thing as a council in getting that consultation, having those workshops and bringing stakeholders together so that we get policies that are for everybody. So I just think that the right thing was done here, and it shows that we're doing the right thing as a council.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Any further speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Item 10.8, the enforcement policy.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
I'll
Deputy Mayor Daniel.
second that.
Councillor Edwards seconded. Any speakers?
Yes, Mr Mayor, this policy and guidelines ensures that this council operates within its legislative responsibilities which protect individuals and the community. Pages 70 and 71 lists the 12 legislative acts under which this council must operate. So I ask councillors to adopt this motion.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Daniel. Any further speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. 10.9 is the management of foxgloves. The council note the current foxglove management practices.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
I'll second that.
Deputy Mayor Daniel, seconded Councillor Edwards. Any speakers? I'll put the motion. All in... Councillor Bramish.
Do you want to go first? Oh, yeah, right. Thanks. Look, I'll support the motion, but I guess this is a Tasmanian problem all over, for what I could see driving around, and I don't really know how we do it, but I guess all the departments are going to come on board statewide to try and get rid of it. And thank Mr Ewington for bringing it to our attention, even though we did know about it.
Thank you, Councillor Bramish. Councillor Edwards, you wish to speak?
Yeah, it's just great to see it on the agenda and starting to act on it, and even though it reads in the agenda that it's not a weed, but yeah, we know that, you know, we're trying to manage it, plus, yeah, property owners need to take on their own responsibility, so...
Yeah, you may have read further into where the Nursery Association
Yes.
of Australia is trying to adopt it, and it's being sold as seed and
Yeah.
seedlings and plants for gardens and things like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So thanks, Ken, for being noisy and keep pushing it. So
Okay, any further discussion? I'll put the motion.
I think what the report notes is that it's not a noxious weed, so there's nothing we can do about it.
Yep. Okay, any further questions or speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. 10.10 is the award of a contract
So moved.
for Calder Road, Blackfish Creek Bridge Replacement, Design and Construct. Councillor Courtney moved. Seconded Deputy Mayor Dunyam. Any speakers? No speakers?
I feel sorry for the engineering manager for obviously having to do this when the costs are through the roof.
Mr. Acting General Manager and Mr. Engineer, do you wish to have any comment in regard to this matter?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Look, that is a challenge, contractor availability and materials, which drives up prices. But we have put this one out to tender along with our other bridges and also with those from Circular Head, and in the report we've noted some cost savings to both councils as a result. So, yep.
As bad as it might have been, it's turned out better than it could have
Sorry,
been.
I should have acknowledged that you did a really good job to keep the cost down by resource sharing. I should have acknowledged that. I apologise.
Each organisation saved a lot of money. Thank you. Okay, Councillor Bramish.
Yeah, I'm going to speak for it. In $19,500 for this council in Circular Head. For memory, we had a couple of bridges last month, and it was very similar in the $19,500 saved. So that all adds up at the end of the day.
Sure does. I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Awarding of a contract to Curbside Refuse Collection Services. There's another recommendation there in regarding to a tender.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
I'll second that.
Deputy Mayor Dunyam moved and Councillor Edwards seconded. Any discussion? Councillor Bramish.
Thank you. I've had a fair bit of discussion with the Acting General Manager last week, I've had a fair bit of discussion today with, not sure what the title is, Dana. I guess how they explained it to me was satisfactory, I guess. I guess the current contractor is going to be disappointed. There's probably not a lot of difference in it, dollars and cents wise, but there's a difference in the timetable or the length of the contract, so I guess I'm happy to support this what's here.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Bremish. Any further comment? Any more speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. 10.12, another contractor for the recycling collection and processing contract.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Daniam.
I'll second that.
Councillor Edwards seconded. Any speakers?
No, Mr Mayor, just to briefly comment on that there are two parts to this particular motion. In particular, the second part, defer the decision making regarding the implementation of a food and garden organics curbside collection service. So I ask the councillors to support the two parts of this motion.
Thank you. Any further speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. .13, the financial report for the period ended 30th of June 2022.
So moved.
Councillor Courtney moved.
I'll second that, Mr Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Daniam seconded. Any questions? Any speakers?
I'll just quickly speak on the motion, but more so to highlight the fact that even though we've been sunk in a bit of mud for the last 12 months to 18 months and everything has been overshadowed by Councillor Fairbrother, this shows that the management and the staff and the councillors have not been distracted by it. We have got on with the job, and our General Manager has come back and given us a favourable forecast of $363,000. So even though it seems that all we're dealing with at the moment is that particular issue, we are doing a fantastic job. The staff are doing a fantastic job, and thank you very much for being so good at your job that we're one of the councils that can come back and say we are in the black. So good job to all of you.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Any further speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. 10.14, Senior Management Report. That the Council note the monthly Senior Management Report.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Daniam.
Second that.
Second to Councillor Edwards. Any questions? Any speakers? Councillor Daniam, Deputy.
Yes, just briefly, I think that I could reiterate exactly what Councillor Courtney has said. While this is the Senior Management Report, I do think it demonstrates that we are continuing business as usual and we're doing a damn fine job.
Any further speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. We're now to the minutes of other bodies and committees, and 10.15.1, Audit Panel Committee held the 21st of June.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Daniam.
Seconded.
Councillor Courtney. Any discussion? Any questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. We are now to 11 on the agenda, which is the proposed matters proposed for consideration in the closed meeting, and a recommendation that we resolve by absolute majority to go into closed meeting and discuss the following matters.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Daniam. Councillor Brammy seconded. Any questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Item 12 on the agenda, closure of the meeting to the public.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Seconded.
At 7:12, the closure of the meeting to the public. Mr. Mover and the seconder.
I moved.
Deputy Mayor Daniam and Councillor Courtney. I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thanks for coming, folks.